Okay. Hi there. Yep, this is Chapter 10, Implementing Hard Drives. You recall last week we did Chapter 9, which talked about different kinds of hard drives, or a week and a half ago. Now we're hitting the hard drives themselves, how to implement them. What does implement mean? Apply. How to apply them. Okay, how come my remote's not working? Okay, let me see here. Okay, there we go. Okay, in this chapter you'll learn how to explain the partitions available in Windows. Do you know what a partition is? What's a partition? Mr. Evans, what's a partition? Okay, Mr. Noe, what's a partition? Okay, well, yeah, I could read that, but what does it mean? What does it mean? That's right. You break the hard drive down into pieces, and a whole hard drive could be one it could be a single partition, right? The whole hard drive, or the hard drive could be more than one partition, and we'll talk about how many partitions a hard drive can be and things like that. This computer that we're doing the presentation on, for instance, has two partitions on the hard drive. It's got a 50 gig and it's got a 450 gig, and the 450 gig is used for data and like this recording, for instance. And the 50 gigs got the operating system on it and a few programs. So where would I stick most of my stuff? On the secondary partition, right? But it's still the same hard drive. From Windows it looks like two hard drives, but it's not. It's two partitions on the same hard drive. Anyway, explain the partitioning available, discuss the formatting options, partition and format a hard drive, maintain and troubleshoot a hard drive. That's what we're going to do in this chapter. Hard drive partitions. Partitioning is the process of, just like Mr. Noe said, electronically subdividing a physical drive, right? Windows assigns them names such as C, D, E, F, G, etc., depending on how many partitions you have on your hard drive. Hard drive must have at least one partition, and that can be 100% of the hard drive. Yes, sir? That would be, okay, the question is, can you run out of letters? Yes. Well, then it's not compatible with DOS anymore. Windows can handle unlettered hard drives, okay? But Windows XP and 7 and above, yeah, it can handle unlettered hard drives, but anything that's DOS-based can only go up to Z. So you actually use what's called a URI, a Uniform Resource Identifier, instead of a hard drive letter. But you do have to have a drive C to boot the computer up. But then you can have partitions actually with names rather than with... so that's more of a Unix thing, huh? Unix doesn't use drive letters, they use names, right? They name their partitions, yeah. Yeah, you can name your supplementary partitions. Here, think about it this way. Anybody got an MP3 player? Okay, when you plug it into your computer, does it give it a drive letter, or does it just say Sony MP3 player and you can... Well, mine doesn't. Mine puts it down on the bottom under Other or Multimedia or whatever it is, right? Yeah. It gives it a letter? Oh, okay. Right, but it still has a letter, right? Yeah, well, my MP3 player, it doesn't have a letter. It just says whatever the MP3 player model number is. And you double click on it and it opens up just like it was a drive, and you can drag things into it and stuff. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Well, I don't know. I think iPods, I heard you could with if you have a card in it. The card looks like another drive, right? There isn't? Oh, not an iPod? Oh, okay. Oh, well, I don't know anything about it. All I know is I got a cheap MP3 player. Oh, really? MP3 players are cooler then, because you can play different kinds of formats. Yeah. And they're cheaper. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I heard iPods are really cool, but I don't have one. I probably never will. Okay. Anyway. Okay. One physical drive. One or more logical partitions. Here's something we run into, folks. When we're installing an operating system on a hard drive, if you only define one partition to start with and assign and install the operating system on that drive, the operating system by default goes to what drive letter? C, like Charlie, right? Okay, and then whatever the CD or DVD drive it is that you're installing from winds up with the next letter, which would be D, right? And if you have two CDs or DVDs, it's going to be C, D, and E. The reason I'm telling you this is that's exactly what it is at my house, okay? C, D, and E. In fact, it probably is here too. And so your secondary partition, when you create a new partition, becomes F. It grabs the next letter, okay? Does that mean that that's in stone? Say no, Dustin. No, But you better get your ducks in order right at the beginning. You better start renaming your partitions, renaming the letters. If you want your second partition to be drive D, and right now there's a CD on drive D, for instance, what would you do? You change the drive letter of your CD drive to like F or G or W or something. Get it out of the way to make that letter available. Then you can go to your drive F hard drive, secondary hard drive partition, and change the hard drive letter back to D, and then grab your CD that you stuck somewhere and put it back where it belongs, okay? So you can do it, but if you don't do it in the beginning, what happens? Who's a gamer? Anybody? Do you play games that you have to have the CD in the drive or the DVD in the drive in order to play the game? Alright, well, before you do any installation, you better make sure that your drives are where you want them to be, because when you install Warcraft or whatever it is, whatever requires a CD to be in there, it expects it at a certain drive letter. So if you install it and then you mess around with your drive letters after the fact, what's going to happen? You'll have to reinstall, right? Because it's not going to find it. It's going to look on the hard drive instead of the CD, and it won't find the files it's looking for. Huh? Yeah, if you got two optical drives and you put them at Y and Z to start with, then you never have to worry about it, right? Yeah, you can plug in flash drives and everything else and not mess with it, right? Just throw those up at the high end. Okay, one physical drive, a minimum of one partition. Okay, essentials. Okay, make sure you throw that stuff away when you finish with it, okay? Master boot record, the MBR. This is a small amount of code on the very last outside track. That's track 0. What's the outside track? Track 0. On a CD, what's the inside track? Track 0. There's a difference between CDs and between hard drives. CDs start from the inside and work their way out. DVDs do too. They start from the inside and work their way out, and hard drives start from the outside and work their way in, which is the more traditional way to do it. Why did they make CDs the opposite? Because there's different sizes of CDs and DVDs. They're not all the same. They're not all 5 inches in diameter. This is a CD, and it's only what, about 3 inches maybe, right? Yeah, but if you read from the outside in, it wouldn't even know there was a CD in there, would it? Right? But CD drives and DVD drives, movies, they read from the inside out. So track 0 is the very inside-most track. Interesting, huh? Okay. Somebody say it's interesting, or else I'll be all depressed. Okay, all right, cool. All right, now we're talking about hard drives right now, right? The MBR is a small amount of data that takes control of the boot process. After it goes through the POST, what's that mean? The post. It's the self-checking, yeah. Power on self-test. The very last step of the power on self-test is to go find the master boot record. And the master boot record is going to be on there whether you're using Linux, whether you're using Unix, whether you've got a Macintosh operating system. Oh, did you hear about that company that got sued by Apple? No, not Google. No, there's a computer manufacturer that was building Core 2 dual machines and putting Mac operating system on them, because the Mac operating system will run on Intel processors now. Interesting, huh? Mac OS X, they call it.